Good afternoon, all participants. Myself, Dr. M.K. Biradar, working as an assistant professor in the Mechanical Engineering Department at Nutan College of Engineering and Research, Talegaon, Pune. It's a great privilege for me to introduce our last session of FDP speaker, Dr. Rajkumar Patil, sir. He's currently working as assistant professor uh, in the Department of Mechanical Engineering at PCCOE Akurdi, Pune. He is having more than 1 year of industrial experience and more than 12 years of academic and research experience at various institutes. He completed Ph.D. from SPPU Pune in 2018. He has completed his postdoctoral research from University of Maryland in 2020. He has published a good number of papers, more than 49 research papers in reputed journals and book chapters, as well as in the conferences. He is a life member of Society for Reliability and Safety, BARC Mumbai. He is a life member of Indian Society for Technical Education, also member of Indian Society of Heating, Refrigeration and Air Conditioning Engineers, that is ISHRE. He worked as a editor for different national and international journals, also as a reviewer for different journals. His major research interest areas are reliability, maintainability and availability modeling and analysis, product life cycle costing, handbook-based reliability prediction, and physics of failure. Also, his interest in data science and artificial intelligence and machine learning for reliability modeling and predictions. With this introduction, I welcome you, sir, for our last session of our FDP, and I request you to start your session, sir.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your kind introduction. I will share the screen now. Sir, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now I will go to my presentation and will enter into presentation mode. So, sir, I guess my voice is very clear, audible, and
Yes,
my
sir,
presentation is visible, right?
Yes, sir, it is audible.
Okay. So now I will start with today's session. So today I divided the whole presentation into two parts. First, I will start with the literature review. And based on my experience, I created a particular methodology for literature review that I will present. Then I will move to a case study, how to write a review paper. And based on that case study, I will tell you how to write an abstract and conclusion effectively so that your research contribution or your observations, key observations, I would say, highlighted and percolated to the scientific community so that the abstract and conclusion itself will tell you what is your contribution in the paper and how it can be taken ahead for the further research. So I will start with the first session, that is literature review and art. The content for this particular session is, first of all, we will try to understand what is literature review, what are the primary objectives of the literature review, what are the basic steps that we perform for the literature review, and few general guidelines, or I would say precautions, that we should take while writing a literature review section or a review paper so that the acceptability of the manuscript will be at higher rate. And in this particular session, we will try to address the questions which you can see on your screen. So if you look at the definition of literature review, there are so many definitions available in the literature developed by different universities, but there are certain words which are highlighted in each and every definitions. And if we pick these keywords, then we can make a generalized definition for literature review. So what literature review does, it collects all the relevant material from different sources. When we go through all of these published research material, we try to summarize all the published work, and while summarizing that work, we find out important milestone or contribution at different time step, and we try to link these information so that the future direction, the problem definition will be clearly understood for the further study. When we talk about literature review, it is very important that the topic, the literature should be for a very particular topic in which you are interested. So in brief, these are the key aspects of a literature review. It's just like a chapati making. What we do, first of all, we collect the raw material and try to find out the optimum way to prepare the raw material. Then we try to make a round chapati. Then we will try to understand how to make it round. And then the further steps can be seen. Once we understood how to make a chapati, then we extend that work for different kind of parathas, palak paratha, methi paratha, and so on. And once we achieve this particular step, then we will try to find out what are the future scope in this particular domain. So as a researcher, what we do, we find out all, just a minute. Yeah. As a researchers, we do a literature review for all of these steps. We put in a such a way that there is a proper link between different steps. And at the end, we will prepare a summary of the literature and also provide the future direction. So when I give my first talk on the how to write a literature review in 2020, when I was in the USA for postdoctoral, so I linked the definition of literature review, and at that time I learned how to make a chapati and parathas. So I took a screenshot and prepared this particular, so that this is a very general example where we can directly correlate the definition of literature review with the chapati making process. So a good literature review assesses the information that is existing work. You need to assess carefully and filter it out or distills it for the reader, so that it will give a clear future direction to the reader. The primary objective of the literature is fundamental objective is to get to familiarity with the fundamental concept in the particular domain. What is happening in that domain, you will come to know. You may use the literature to find out gap in the literature, the inconsistencies in the literature, what are the future directions available for upcoming work. You can use the literature to identify a research problem for research paper or PhD work. You can also use to refine, define, and make a strong research problem. Again, we are generally struggle with different tools and techniques which are appropriately used for our research. So in order to select suitable tools and techniques, you can make use of literature, and there are so many other objectives of the literature. But the ultimate goal of writing a literature review is to provide a solid foundation to your research, especially those who are new researcher or working with the PhD topic. So each and every research objective, the research gap, the work that you want to carry out, you should support each and everything with the solid literature review. Otherwise, the scientific committee or the reviewer panel may not accept your literature. Again, here key suggestion from my side is that whenever you plan to write a literature review, you also always keep in your mind that you are also a reader. Many a times we forget that we are also a reader, and without considering that factor, we write the literature. For example, generally the newcomers, what they do, they find out 20-30 papers, and for each paper they write one paragraph. So 30 papers, 30 paragraphs, 4-5 page literature is ready, and they say, sir, we are done with the literature review. The issue is that If such literature review, if we came across, can we read? The answer is, to be frank, no. Because one paper, one paragraph, no finding, no observation, nothing. So such literature is very weak. And as a reader, if we are not interested to read, then if we write similar literature review, then can we expect others will read our literature? So that's why before we start writing a review report or review paper, we should always keep in our mind that we are also a reader and we should write so that researcher or other people will take interest in the published work. So in order to write a review, the certain steps I have identified based on my experience and that you can see on the screen. And the seventh step would be either you will write a good review report or a review paper on a very particular or specific topic in which you are interested to work. And now we'll try to understand each and every step and with critical observations and insight. The first critical question is how to select a topic. Many people struggle with selection of the topic. And as a academic institutions, as most of the people are working in the academics, or even though they are working in the industry, they are responsible for doing other activities as well. So my recommendation is select a topic in which you are interested, or select a topic related to the subject or courses which you are teaching to your student, so that whatever content you are teaching or delivering to the student, if you are selecting aligned topic, your fundamental knowledge will improve. Also, you will come to know what are the future directions. So also based on that, you can hire interns or BTech projects can be based on the similar topic. Second, your topic should be very, very specific. For example, my research domain is reliability. Then reliability is a very general term and domain, and application can be anyone. So you should link your domain to a particular topic, for example, solar photovoltaic system. And if I say presently I'm working on reliability of solar photovoltaic system, then system is defined and you are applying your fundamental domain knowledge for the analysis of such system. So the topic should be very, very specific. If you still struggle with the topic, then your PhD supervisor or the friends, the colleagues which are working in your domain, they may help you to select a suitable topic through brainstorming. One of the best approach is the domain in which you are working, find out recently published review papers. And I will tell you surely, definitely you will get a research problem from these review papers. Again, at the same time, make a habit of identifying problems from daily news reports and discussion. For example, take an example of Pune city. Traffic is one of the critical issue. Then water pollution, it one of the critical issue. If you take an example of Western Maharashtra, then the sugarcane farms are many, and the wastage of the sugar farm is a very critical issue because the farmers burns it and it will be responsible for the pollution. So such problems are there in the, even Pune city is well-known city. So we can find out a suitable problem in which we are interested to work, and you can start working in that particular domain. And why the topic selection is very important, because once you select a topic for next 5 to 6 years, even more than that, you are working on that particular domain only. And that's why these are the some of the guidelines you should always keep in your mind, so that by handling all the academic, family and other responsibilities, you can also accelerate the research as well. Second important input is that you should always start from a very general topic and make it a very specific topic. For example, as an engineering faculty, there are so many domains. So you need to find out in which domain you are working. For example, mechanical. Again, mechanical has so many subdomains. You need to find out a domain in which you are interested. For example, design. Again, in design, there are so many subdomains. You need to find out in which particular subdomain you are interested. For example, reliability. Again, in reliability, there are different approaches, and you need to make a very particular topic or a subdomain, narrow domain where you want to accelerate the work. So you will start from a very general topic to end with a very particular domain where your focus is to narrow down the research area, and also you will be defining the depth and width of the research. Once you define your particular domain, try to find out important keywords from that particular domain. These keywords will help you to identify domain specific research papers, then the domain specific journals where either you can refer the material or you can publish your research work. So identifying typical keywords, very specific and required keywords, will help you to gather all the required materials related to your research. Again, always keep your mind and brain open. Why I'm saying this? If you look at this particular figure, this figure is called as bathtub curve. Why? The shape of the curve is just like a bathtub, and that's why it is called as a bathtub curve. And I teach the course reliability engineering since last 8 to 10 years. And if you open any reliability engineering book, this particular curve will be there. And we blindly teach that the bathtub curve is applicable to most of the systems. And I will tell you this particular curve is developed in 17th century. How old it is, you can imagine. And blindly, without understanding its fundamental, we keep telling this to the students. And my next session, that is a review paper, is based on this bathtub curve. What I wanted to convey, the basic curves or basic philosophy that we teach to the student blindly without understanding. Many a times there is a research problem, and based on that you can accelerate, you can write a review paper or a research paper, or you can find out different topics related to that. So my recommendation is to you is that the domain in which you are working, find out the fundamental assumptions or well-known theory which is in the domain, and try to check whether that theory is correct or not. And if you do some literature review, you will come to know that no, this theory is theoretically fine, but application point or implementation point of it is not suitable. And you can take that thread ahead to write a research paper or a review paper. So I'm not explaining this particular curve here because in the upcoming topic, I will be focusing on how to write a review paper based on this bathtub curve. And we already published, so that case study I will be presenting. So that's why I'm saying keep your mind and brain open, so that whatever assumptions, whatever content that we teach to the student, that will give you idea for a research topic. Then next suggestion is that when we write a literature review, either a report or a paper, these are the sources that you can use for your literature. These are the some of the sources. But suppose for a paper, if you referred, let's say 100 research papers, citations, then out of 100, the 70% paper should be from journals. When I say journals, reputed journals, again, these 70% research papers must have published in last 3 to 5 years, so that you are conveying a message that whatever research gap you have identified, that is based on top quality research papers and based on the papers which are published in last 3 to 5 years. And in remaining 30%, you can use the other reference material. So this is what I can recommend from this particular slide. The search of literature is just like a diamond in the coal. Many times we start digging the mine or start searching the literature. We are very close to the mine, but we struggle a lot, and we came to know that there is no relevant papers in my domain, and we start the return journey. This is quite possible, and I have observed with many researchers that they are about to get their research problem, but they got tired with so many literature and they start their backward journey. Many people are very lucky, and when they start digging, they got the diamond or the relevant articles or research problem immediately. So this is a quite a tricky question. It depends on person to person and their skills. Either they can reach to the research problem immediately, or they struggle a lot to get a research problem. But as I said, the literature, you if you focus on the articles which are published in last 3 to 5 years, especially if you focus on the review articles, probability of reaching to the right article or problem definition is very high. Again, there is a quote: when you are gathering information for your literature, you won't use everything you gather. Use best of the best material. And that's why I'm using the word the relevant and significant articles. Otherwise, you may get a comment that you use so many journal papers which are old, not relevant, and that's why either they will be giving you a major revision or they may reject your article. So use best of the best material. Again, I will give you one example where you may get a topic by accident. When I completed my MTech, then I approached to my MTech guide and I request him that if you have a topic for my PhD work, then please give it to me. I will start immediately before I get admission for the PhD. Then my professor told me that, yeah, right now I don't have, but if I came across any topic, I will let you know. Then after 1 month, he sent me this particular article. And that article was reliability engineering, old problems and new challenges. So from the title itself, I came to know that in this particular paper, I will get some topic for my research. And if you look at the type of article, this is a review paper. And fortunately, because of my MTech guide, I came across this very critical and important paper that helped me a lot to define and refine my PhD research topic. Now, where this particular article is published, it is published in Reliability Engineering and System Safety. And that is well-known journal in the domain of reliability. Why I'm emphasizing the journal in which this article is published? The reason is that during your PhD interview or during your progress presentations, many a times the panel will ask you a question: which base paper you referred for your research work? Then you have to tell the name of the article and name of the journal. And when you tell the name of the journal should be reputed one. That decides the quality of your research. Last thing is that when you come across such a review papers, you must look at the outline of the paper very carefully, because understanding a research paper is a very challenging thing. But understanding a review article is again very challenging thing, because from olden days of the history to till date, all the important milestones are identified, connected properly, and then future directions are very given. And practically, as a first reader or new researcher, it is very difficult to digest. But if you look at the outline of the paper, then you may came across very interesting sections where if you go directly, you may get some idea for your research topic. So what I wanted to convey, review paper are the best sources, and you sometimes get a research topic accidentally if you are referring a review papers. And last important statement is, if you define the research problem properly, very clearly, then 50% of your PhD work is over. Because if you have very clear research problem is what? You have research gap, you have problem definition, you know what to do, how much to do, and just you have to walk on that particular path that you develop. So the 50% work is just the manual activity, I would say, because all the foundation is already there. You just build the building on that particular foundation. The next important question comes: we get literature, we got 100 articles which are very relevant, but many people have a question that, sir, if I read one article once, I never understand anything. I need to read it at least 5 to 6 times so that I start understanding what is given in that paper. Then if 5 times a single article I have to read, then there are 100 articles. How much time I have to spend? And after reading all this, am I in a position to identify a problem or write a report? So how to read an article? That is a very important question. Some guidelines I will be providing from different perspective. So the first question is, why should we read the articles? First of all, the first question is, when you start reading the article, first objective should be, you need to decide whether this article is useful or not. If this article is useful, then you should go ahead. If this article is not useful, then you just keep aside that particular article. Now, how to read the article so that I will come to know if the article is useful or not. So first step, first of all, read the title. Title will tell you very clearly this article is useful or not. If this article is useful, then read the abstract. The abstract will give you more confidence if still this article is useful or not. If you think the article is useful, then read the table of content, then conclusion, and then read rest of the article. So if you follow this proper procedure, then I'm very sure that you will come to know whether you will come to a conclusion that whether this article is useful or not. And one story I would like to put it here. So in 2013, when I about to get admission for the PhD in Pune, Kolhapur, Sangli region, we struggle a lot with the access of the journal, how to download the article. You can imagine 2013, 10 years back. So what I did, I went to IIT Kharagpur, one of the best reliability centers there. I stayed there for 4-5 days, and every day since morning to till night, I was just downloading the articles from reliability domain specific from the relevant journals. And I downloaded nearly 5,000 articles or more than that. And I brought all these articles here. The objective was to get all the articles. Now the big question was how to find out only useful articles from a bunch of 5,000 articles. So this particular methodology I came across, if I start reading in this particular direction, then it will take less time to identify only relevant articles related to my domain. So you may use this particular methodology to decide whether the article is useful or not. If article is useful, then you can go into the details and develop the further activities. The most important message that I wanted to convey here is that read what is given in the article. This, of course, it is essential, but reading whole article is quite Herculean task. So read more about what you want to read. You are looking for a particular information, a set of instructions or information or research gap. Based on that context or based on these objectives, you try to read if that is there in the paper or not. If it is there, then the article is useful. If that is not there, then article is useless. So that's why I'm saying read more about what you want to read more than what is given in the article. So let's take an example. I came across this article, title was very interesting. I found that the article is useful. I started reading the abstract, and the highlighted statement was motivated me to go to section number 4, because abstracts told me that probably I may get a problem definition in section number 4. And the title is very clear, future needs. So in this particular section, again, I came across one very interesting highlighted statement. Indeed, the reliability analysis of the modern complex system entails an integrated approach in which hardware, software, organization, and human elements are treated as a combined frame. And if you ask me what is my PhD thesis topic, development of an integrated model for reliability analysis of a resilient system considering the effect of hardware, software, organization, and human elements. So that's why I'm saying, if you are very lucky, accidentally you may directly reach to the problem where you can directly start working. Then the next step is analyze and evaluate the article. This part is very critical, and probably if I start explaining, you may not understand, but some of the important part I will highlight here. Ask yourself a question. What is your research question, and whether this article or material is related to it or not. Second, is this a foundational article or seminal work which must be included in your work? Because many times when you submit your research paper or review paper to a journal, you may receive a comment. These are the foundational articles which you have not included in your research. So you need to find out which are the key articles, key papers in your domain. Second, you need to check is how the paper is organized. His philosophy behind the organization of the paper, that will help you to prepare your paper. Again, there are so many other things, you can use it as a homework. Then some of the parts you must read it very carefully. What are the assumptions in the paper? These assumptions will directly give you a topic for the research. Many times we struggle with the methodology, the test to be conducted, how to collect the data. That part we need to read it very carefully. You need to check who are the experts in your domain, which are the well-known research centers or laboratory in your domain. Then conflicting theories, results, methodology, and so many things you can read. One example I will tell you related to assumption. Reliability allocation is one of the important thing at the design stage. And most of the reliability allocation methodologies are using the exponential distribution. And if you look at the exponential distribution and a particular data set, the expected life of the component is found to be nearly 5,500 hours. But for the given data set, when I checked with the best fit distribution among all these distribution, then surprisingly the best fit distribution was not exponential, it was log normal distribution. And for log normal distribution, the expected life of the compound was 7,485, which is much higher than exponential distribution. So if you stick to the assumption, your result or interpretation may be wrong. So instead of relying on the assumption, please check what is the true condition, how I can make a realistic scenario for the analysis. And that will help you to go in a right direction. And that is a good approach, I would say. Then many people identify 100, 200, 300 articles, which are very relevant, but they put in a different folders in such a way that they struggle to get right article whenever they require. For example, when you go for PhD progress presentation, or even when you receive review comments, many people are the comment says that this particular observation is doubtful, or it should be supported with relevant research papers. Then what you need to do, you need to go to these research articles which are there in your folders, but you organize the articles in such a way that you struggle a lot to reach to that particular article. So these are the some of the guidelines. Instead of reading this, I will directly tell you one example. During my PhD progress also, I came to know we have to organize the articles in such a way that quickly I can reach to the right article in which I need to go. I need some information. So I come up this approach. All journal papers you need to save by a name starting with the year in which the article is published, followed by the title of the article. If you save the articles in this fashion, then whenever there is a question from the reference list, you can find out in which year the article is published. You can go to that particular year. If in that year so many articles, then look at the title. So quickly you can reach to the right article, right? And that is very essential whenever you are doing a research, because many times what happens, you saved the articles 1 year ago and today you are searching. So what methodology you adopted 1 year back, you don't know. And that's why you struggle a lot. So this is one of the observation from my end. And if you store article in this way, you can reach to the right article quickly. Again, what you can do based on methodology, based on a particular technique, or based on the data analysis process, you can create different folders, and in each folder put the relevant articles. So if question comes related to FTA, I can go to this folder and I can read the articles. If question is asked related to Bayesian fundamentals, I can go to this particular folder and the papers associated. Again, what you can do, whatever relevant papers you identified for each and every paper, please prepare its index, the way the article is organized, and put all the such as summary sheets or sheets on a table, and just look at from a broader perspective, and you will come to know these are the relevant articles, how they are organized, and how I should organize my research work. So these are the some of the techniques that you can use to save your article in a folder or in a drive, so that that access period or access time will be shorter. It's just like a chapati making. Again and again, I'm visiting to this particular example. What I can do, I will prepare a folder in which I will store all the articles related to raw material preparation. I will create a second folder where I will be putting all the papers related to how to make a chapati round. Third folder, how to burn the chapati, and so on. Right. So there are 5 folders. In each folder, domain or topic specific articles are there, and I can reach to the right article quickly. And again, you can make another folder where the future direction oriented articles are there. Okay, you can prepare accordingly. Furthermore, in a particular domain, if you identify different milestones, research milestones, and different contributions happens in different time era, what you can do, you can summarize your literature section, especially the history of the literature, in this way, so that the reader will come to know which are the important milestones in a particular research domain. Second, you can create different folders according to the time domain, and you can organize the articles. So this is one input from my side. Again, the next step is prepare outline of the paper. The outline of the paper I'm not discussing here. This particular part I will be discussing in the case study. Then the next step is start writing. Before that, I would highlight here, once you complete all this step, you need to prepare a proper outline of the paper, means how you are going to divide the literature review into different sections, subsections, so that there will be a proper flow of the content, and that content will help you or will guide you to write article which is very interesting to the audience. And then once you prepare outline, then start writing. So when you prepare outline of the paper, what you need to do, you need to divide the literature into different sections and subsections. For example, first section of the literature, how to make a raw material. Second subsection, how to make a round chapati. Third section, how to burn. Fourth section, fifth section, and the last section will be the summary of all the sections and what are the future directions. So this is the proper flow of the literature, and if you write in this way, it will be very interesting to the audience. Then with certain examples, I will give you some idea how to put a literature in in a proper way so that it will be interesting to the audience. For example, many a times in the thesis, we have to write the historical development in a particular domain or history of a particular domain. So what we do generally, we write paragraph after paragraph, 3-4 page history. And when you show it to your guide will say it is not at all interesting. But if I write paragraph after paragraph, the history of a particular domain, and the end should be in a tabular form or a graphical form where important milestones are given. Then instead of reading so many paragraphs, if I quickly read this particular table, then the important contribution milestones can be easily understood. And this is very interesting way to present the history. Second thing is that many times we have to consider certain parameters for the research, or we have to select certain tools and techniques for the analysis. So what you can do in column number 1, put all the researchers according to the year in which the article is published. And in all next columns, you need to put a different parameters, tools and techniques. And just give a tick mark who used which technique or which parameters. And once this table is completed, at the end, the last row, which parameter you are going to consider or which tools and techniques you are going to use. A single table itself tell you what is the research gap, which additional parameters you have considered, which is not considered by other researchers, which tools and techniques you are going to use, which are not used by the other researcher, which is widely used in your domain. So if you put a literature review in a tabular form, this is very effective and impressive. Next thing is that many times we have to write about the type of data used for the analysis. So this is one of the example where you can see the 4 types of data are there. Data from literature, test, field and experts, or combination of above 4. Then this shows the how many papers use which type of data. So if I prepare this particular table, then the relevant text I can prepare very easily. For example, first statement will be many researchers use the data which is already published in the literature. However, the data which is available in the literature, which is very old, published 10 years back, which is not in line with the latest technologies. Therefore, the use of old data which is available in the literature is not a good approach. Therefore, there is a need to collect the data from the field, which is based on the recently developed technologies and available in the field, so that the field data will provide the actual results in line with the latest technologies. So this is how you can write a text once the table is prepared, and the text will be written in a such a way that the research gap, where we should emphasize, what has to be done, that can be told very easily and interestingly. You can also say that when we look at the table, either individual technique is used or combination of 1 or 2 methodologies used, but there is no single paper that uses all 4 types of data. And therefore, in the present work, the data from literature, test, field and expert judgment is used. See, this is how you can interpret the literature. The next question is a review of methods used for the analysis. So these are the methods. These are the number of papers. So what you can say, most of the researchers use the fault analysis method, and which is very effective for the reliability evaluation of a system, right? So that's why I'm using this particular method in my paper, you can say. Or from this table, you will come to know these are the widely used method, but there are certain methods which are not at all used for reliability analysis. And you can say, as this method is not used at all, so I'm going to use this particular method in my research paper, and the results obtained from the new method, I will be comparing with the published work. This is also a way of presenting the literature. Many a times when we do experiments for a given number of samples, we prepare specimens and we conduct a test. Then definitely the question comes, how many samples you tested and why? Justify. And practically we struggle a lot. And if we say, if I have less funds, so I have prepared less number of samples, that is not a scientific foundation or justification to the answer. This is a economical reason, and economical reason cannot justify your scientific conclusions. And therefore, whatever samples you tested in your experimental work, either in mechanical, civil, electronics, or whatever, it is possible to prepare a table where the name of the authors, how many sample size or machines considered by the researchers, how long the data has been collected by these people, and at the last line you can say how many machines you considered and what is the data collection period. So this study will very clearly tell that whatever data you have collected, it is sufficient in comparison with the existing work. The data collection during period that you have selected, it is in line with the existing or better than the other researcher used. So this is how you can convince to the audience as well that whatever data collection period I have used, that is absolutely fine. The next is related to how to write assumption, limitations, and applicability. So what you can do, frame questions related to assumptions, applicability, and limitations. Put name of different methods, parameters, or whatever you wanted to put, and just write yes, no. So when you put yes, no type, automatically you will come to know what has been done or what is used, what is not used. Then what is not used, that you can take ahead for further analysis. So this is another way for putting a literature review. Next is, here you can see in this particular table, the electronics component. This particular part, again, I am taking in the case study, but I will tell you some important crisp of this particular table. These are the electronic component. And here you can see the authors who did a research on this particular component and its data. And the middle column talks about the shape parameter of Weibull distribution. And if you look at the value of shape parameter, what we can see, the value of shape parameter is greater than 1. So if all the values are greater than 1, means it has some interpretation. And that interpretation I will be explaining in case study. It means, I will tell you for understanding purpose, that if the value of the shape parameter is greater than 1, then there is a increasing failure rate or increasing hazard rate. So it clearly tells that the electronic component has increasing hazard rate, and there is no constant hazard rate or decreasing hazard rate. So a single table will tell you the trend in the electronics component, that the hazard rate in electronics is increasing. So such type of table also support your conclusion or observation or the claim that you are making. Again, for homework, I am providing here the bad review as well as good review. You can read it so that clearly you will come to know how to write sentence by sentence the literature review. Again, second example, how researcher A is writing and how researcher B is writing. In concluding part, what are the important things to be considered while writing a literature review? The similarity or plagiarism must be within acceptable limit. Why this is very important? If I write a very good, excellent paper, and if I submit it to a journal, and if the editor or the admin team came to know that the similarity is very high, then even though your article quality is very high, your article straightforwardly rejected because of the plagiarism or similarity. Next, there should be no grammatical or spelling error. See, research paper is nothing but the communicating your results to the audience in a very effective way. So if you are making grammatical or English error means you are not, it indicates you are not serious about your research writing. And if you are not serious about writing means you are not serious about your experimental research. That's why the communication, the writing is also equally important. The content should flow very smoothly and logically so that the audience will get interest in article. They will understand what you have written so that they can use your article for citing in their work. And that's why this is very important. The text should be written in a clear and concise academic style. It should not be descriptive in the nature or use the language everyday speech. I wanna go home. Wanna means want to. That is not a day-to-day English, right? Technical English, want to. Wanna is a day-to-day English. So the professional English must be used, right? The sentence should be concise and clear so that maximum information can be given from minimum number of words. Again, related to tense, there are so many issues. Sometime in a given report, sometime you use present tense, continuous tense, past tense. So many tenses are given in a single paragraph or single report. What is the recommendation? Throughout your manuscript, either decide to go with simple present tense or simple past tense and follow or stick to it throughout the manuscript. Next one is avoid overuse of first use person. I, we, my, our, your, her, right? Instead of that, we can use it. If there is a situation where I have to use a word, let's say we, then in a very rare situation, we can use we or they, right? But frequently don't use the first person pronouns. Again, you need to find out certain verbs that you can use for your literature. And when you read other papers now, you will come to know there are certain words, for example, suggest, claim, suppose, considered. These are the commonly used verbs. And if you are list of these verbs, then when you start writing, you can easily pick a proper verb and you can use it. Then UE should not use must be done, have to be done. Instead of just soften your words, that is would be, could be, might be, these words you can use. Why this is important? Because we should not make a mandatory, or we should not say the research in this particular domain has not been done. This is your perception. Na? Many people might have worked in that, but you are not in a position to reach those articles. And that's why you cannot claim that the research has not done. Might be done. Or many people carried out work in that particular domain. So politely you should convey your message. Then words to avoid making overgeneralization. Many times we make overgeneralization. The research has not been done in this domain. Instead of that, some of the researcher focused on this particular domain. However, these are the some of the domains where work can be carried out. To put the same thing in a politely and without making the over generalization. So these are the some of the things I wanted to convey. There are other guidelines given and that you can refer later as a homework. Then overuse and confused words. This is also very important thing. These are the words which are frequently used in the manuscript. Take your manuscript and please check how many times you use word very. And I will tell you, the reviewers or editors don't like the word like very. For example, this is very important. We try to write, right? See, when you write a research paper, if something is not important, why you are writing? If you are writing very important, means that statement is very important, others are not important. Is it so? No. So try to avoid the words which are overused or words which may be confused. These are the some of the confused words. We generally struggle either to write yours or yours, either to write your or you are. So at the beginning, make a clear definition how to write these words and make use throughout the manuscript. Again, as I mentioned, we should avoid the word very, right? And we need to find out which are the alternative word to the very. For example, very afraid. Instead of that, you can write terrified. It means not very afraid. Angry, instead of very angry, I can say furious. So these are the 45 ways to put a word very in front of the word, other words. Then we should avoid redundant expression, and this is our very good habit to write same sentence in different way or same word redundantly. For example, 12 midnight. Instead of just writing a midnight, no, by default the audience will come to it's 12. 3 a.m. in the morning. By default at 3 a.m. there is a morning, so just write 3 a.m. A total of 14 birds. Instead of that, just say 14 birds. See, these are the some of the ways to avoid the redundancy. Then avoid contractions and check homonism, right? So, ma'am, we have, I would. So these are the some of the contractions, and we generally try to avoid such things. Be consistent. Generally, we struggle with American and British English because India was a colony of British. So we are more habitual with the color organization. But in research, there is a dominance or more dominance of Americans. So these are the typical words. So at the beginning, decide either you want to go ahead with American English or British English, and throughout your manuscript, use the same. Again, caps versus small. We struggle either to write Department of Civil Engineering like this or like this. So once you decide a particular format for writing, use throughout. Both are the correct ways. But that uniformity should be there throughout the manuscript. Again, chapter 2 or chapter 2. Both ways are correct, but you need to stick to one of them. So that's it from my side in first part of the session. And the quote for you is the best literature use tells a good story. So whatever method, tools, technique that we studied or discussed here, I'm very sure if you apply some of the techniques, whatever I have presented, or based on your understanding, if you prepare a report, that definitely will be a good story. So based on this particular session, if you have any question, the session is open for the discussion. Yes, anybody? Any question?
Hello. Hello.
Yes.
Good afternoon, sir.
Ma'am, your voice is very low. Can you increase the voice?
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, I want to ask that in the literature surveys, means you said that we have to go through 5 to 6 years back papers, research papers.
Pardon?
5 to 6 years back research papers we have to go through for literature review or literature survey. So
Okay.
we should take it from the journals only or from the Google Scholar. Means like IEEE papers are not downloaded. Every
Okay.
time we are means struggling with downloading that IEEE papers, and number of journal papers which are not downloaded. Also, we are taking it. Means the OI is taken on its Sci-Hub. Then also it is not downloaded. So how
Okay.
to go through that?
Yeah, I understood your question. So
Yes.
I will elaborate the answers of your question, because in a single question you have different questions which are very important. So first thing is that, suppose I'm going to use 15 references in my paper. So my recommendation is that more than 70% papers must be from journal papers, and the reputation of the journal should be very high. So this is first suggestion. If you are not getting research papers, or you cannot download the research papers, there are certain ways to overcome it. First, Sayab ma'am already said, but which is officially not allowed. But at the same time, what you can do, you can open your account on the ResearchGate, and most of the researchers are available there. You just write an email to them that I'm doing research in this particular domain and I came across your article. This article is very interesting. However, I don't have access. Can you please share your article for my personal use? And I will tell you, people share their article. This is one way. Second way, as we are working in institutions, many institutions have tie-up with IITs. So what we can do, we can prepare a list of articles to be downloaded. Through college, we can go to IITs, download the articles, come back. Third option is find out people who are working in your domain from IITs, NITs, or reputed institutions where the access to these articles are available, and just send these articles to them, right? And request them that I need these articles. Can you please download and send it to me? People help. Sometime you need to find out a collaborator. Suppose I'm doing a research on a particular domain, I'm struggling with the article, then what I will do, I will find out a researcher expert in that domain, also from reputed institutions. So that expert will help me to get articles, also to review my articles, to improve the quality of my article. So these are the some of the ways through which you can get the articles. You cannot say that I don't have access to these articles and that's why I have not cited. So these are the some of the ways to get articles. Third thing is that whatever statement I made, that nearly 70 or more than 70% journal paper should be there. This is not hard and fast rule. This is based on my understanding that we should make use of maximum quality research journal papers where scientific research are carried out and results are published, so that the reviewers or editors will get convinced that you reviewed quality material to carry out quality research. This message is given there. I guess one part I'm missing from your question, ma'am. I guess I answered most of the question. If additional part, if I missed, can you please repeat that?
Yes, sir. You have answered all the questions.
Okay.
One more is, sir, if I want to publish in Scopus journals, so means how much time it is required to publish? Means when we'll get the acceptance?
Okay. So this is very interesting question, and based on my first session where journal finder tool, where we can decide that if I want to publish quickly, then I can apply that filter so that I will come to know the journals which publishes very fast. But if that option is not available, then how much time does it take to review SCI paper or Scopus paper? Then practically I will tell you, ma'am, there is no hard and fast rule. It totally depends on the availability of the reviewer. If you submit your article and if editor identify the reviewers, and if reviewers did the review process quickly, then your article will get accepted or rejected, whatever, or decision will be made quickly and your article will be available fast. But if reviewers are not available, then it is uncontrollable factor, because see, editors are working free of cost, reviewers are doing review free of cost. So it is basically on not in the top priority of the reviewer or editor. So that's why generally the delay happens. But how to overcome this? My experience says that if you go with the high impact factor journal, then I will tell you, generally the review process is very fast, because these high impact factor journals are also maintaining the timely publishing and so many things. Second thing is that if you want to publish quickly, then after submitting your article, you can write an email to the editor that I'm about to complete my PhD, or this is important part that I want to publish quickly, and I request you to complete the review process fast so that my thesis can be submitted quickly, or whatever technical or genuine reasons that you have. If you communicate, then generally editors, they are also human being, right? They understand and they take your paper on top priority. One more thing is that if you have funds for publishing your article, because most, as I said in previous session, that most of the journals are nowadays moving for open access, or even subscribed journal also have option for open access, where you are paying the money for making your article available free of cost to all the audience. So in that case, you can opt that option, or you can go with a journal which is indexed in Scopus, Web of Science, quality is very high, and there your article will be processed quickly. So these are the some of the ways where you can opt one of the good option through which your article can be published very quickly. I guess I tried to answer your question, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. And one more request.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, from the first day, we are hearing your sessions. So these are very nice sessions. So if it is convenient for you, could you give your contact details so that researchers will be helpful?
Okay, so in the chat box, I will
Also
put
mail IDs.
Okay, in the chat box, I am putting my number. You can contact on me that. I'm also providing my email address. So if somebody wants to contact me for sessions, for help or guidance, so I welcome all of you. Yes. So the details are given in the chat box.
Thank
Any
you.
other question?
Thank you so much.
So there is one question from
Yes, sir.
a participant that they are asking about the permissible limit for plagiarism.
Okay, so generally it changes from journal to journal. This is the very general answer, but my recommendation would be without references. Means in our paper there are references. If you exclude the references, then the similarity or plagiarism must be less than 10%. If you are considering the references, then the plagiarism must be less than 15%. But in most of the journals, with the references, if plagiarism is less than 20%, they generally push your article ahead. And in that case, you may receive a comment that you please reduce the similarity. So without references less than 10%, with references less than 15% is the standard practice. But again, on a very general way or broader way, with references less than 20%. There may be a question related to what is the allowed percentage for the review article. So generally, with the references less than 20-25%, without references 15%, or sometimes 20%. Less than 20% is also allowed. So overall, we can say less than 20% with references is a good practice to go ahead with. If you are maintaining less than 10%, that is much better. Sir, I guess I answered your question. Any other question, or shall I move ahead with the next section?
So for next session.
Yeah, sure. So In second session, that is session number 4, how to write a review paper, a case study. And this particular session will be concluded with how to write a abstract and conclusion. If I start telling the how to write abstract and conclusion in a very general way, you may not understand. But with the case study, if I give you that example, then I will tell you, you will understand in a better way. For this particular session, your concentration is very much essential because I am presenting a philosophy how to write a review paper, right? So in order to understand the philosophy, the logic, your concentration level should be very high. Second important thing is that the topic that I have chosen for the case study is a very general in nature. And if you are from any department or a program, I'm very sure you will understand the case, the paper, because of its genuinity or general nature of the topic. So when we talk about a research paper, generally this is the typical format for organizing the research paper: introduction, literature, methodology, experimentation, discussion of result, and conclusion. We can divide the whole work in these 5-6 sections and your paper is ready. But when we go for a typical review paper, there is no typical format for writing a review paper. And that's why many people struggle with writing a review paper. And if your thought process is evolved to a certain level, I will tell you, you will come up with your own idea to a review paper, right? So that philosophy needs to be developed. So in previous session, we discussed 7 steps for writing a review. And at the end, as I said, you will come across a good review paper. So the topic of the paper, which I will be presenting here, an assessment of validity of bathtub model hazard rate trends in electronics. So when you look at the title, you will come to know that this is a review paper and that assesses the validity of model. And the context or the domain is very clear. We are talking only about electronic components or systems. So assessment the validity of what? A model from what context? Electronics, right? So title itself will give you very clear idea what is given in this particular paper. So the title should be very clear. That will clearly tell what you have presented in this particular paper. Now, first of all, we will try to understand what is bathtub curve. In one of the slide given in last presentation, it was there. First of all, we will try to understand what is bathtub curve, and then we will go ahead. So on x-axis, you can see a time, and on y-axis, you can see failure rate or hazard rate. Failure rate is also sometimes called as hazard rate. So let's take an example of a child. So when a new child takes a birth, generally the probability of death or the failure rate is very high, because for a period of 9 months that child is there in the uterus of the mother, and the operating condition or environmental conditions are different. When that child takes a birth, it is suddenly exposed to a new environmental conditions, and that's why the failure rate or death rate is very high. But as time passes, from day 1 to day 2, first week to next week, first month to next month, first year to second year, and so on, slowly that child will get acquainted with the surrounding, and therefore as time passes till 5-6 years, the hazard rate decreases or the failure rate decreases, the probability of death decreases. Now when that child become of an age of 5 to 6 to till 50, 60, the period is called as useful life or normal life. Why? Because this is the period where we are very much comfortable with the environment, how to live, what to do, how to do, how much to do, everything we are aware of. And in this particular period, we take education, we do job, we earn money, whatever dream we have, we fulfill here. And that's why it is called as a normal life or useful life. After 50s, what happens? Most of our body organs completes their useful life and they are deteriorating. The maintenance of the body increases. Again, at the same time, compare 50 to 60 and 60 to 70, 70 to 80. As time passes, the probability of death increases. The mortality rate increases. The death rate increases. And that's why it is called as wear out period. And the very interesting thing is that for small child, in infant mortality region, most of the vaccinations are given. Parents take special precaution in this particular age to increase the probability of survival, right? Or to minimize the death rate. In useful life, it is a very normal. And here also death happens, but the death reasons are very rare. For example, accident, right? Accident is a very rare reason. COVID disease. COVID is a very rare disease. Cancer is also, we can say, a very rare disease, right? And because of that, death may happen in this particular region. And as I already mentioned, most of the body organs complete their useful life, and wear out means the probability of death slowly increases. So from this example, you may say that this bathtub model is applicable to human. Second example, let's take. Suppose if we buy a four-wheeler or a two-wheeler, right? Generally, at the beginning, the failure rate or hazard rate is very high. The reason is very simple. A single car consists of more than 20,000 components. These components are manufactured at different locations in different operating conditions or environment. Then all of these components come at a single location where the car is assembled. Even though there are stringent quality control policies, there is a high chance that faulty components will get incorporated in the car and they may fail in the early time when the car is put into the operation. And that's why it is called as infant mortality. As a customer, you may not come to know many failures early stage of the product, but company knows that they are selling thousands of cars and there is a problem. And their reliability study says that which components are going to fail when. And that's why the two-wheeler or four-wheeler companies, they are providing free services, especially in the first year. That is called as infant mortality. So for child, we are giving vaccinations to increase survival probability. In case of a car, the free services are provided to increase the reliability or minimize the number of failures in the car. And if you look at the free servicing manual, then a typical time is defined. First servicing must be completed within 250 kilometers to 500 kilometers of running of the car. Second free servicing should be done between 750 to 1000 kilometers of running, and so on. Or sometime in terms of time, before 3 months, within 4 to 5 months, and so on. So here what I wanted to convey, the companies are providing free servicing not because they are a charity organization. All companies are there to make a profit. But why they are providing free servicing? Because company knows which are the possible components going to fail in infant mortality region, especially from the day when the car is put into operation to generally 1 to 2 years. But the companies are utilizing this particular tool for marketing as well. They are claiming that we are giving more number of free servicing means we are good organization. But actually it is a reliability issue. Now, again, after 1 to 2 years of operation, for next 7 to 8 years, the life of the car or a two-wheeler is considered as a normal life or a useful life, where if you do a minimum servicing, oiling, lubrication, then for next 8 to 10 years with the least maintenance, you can use your car. So that is called as a useful life. But after 10-15 years, what happens? Most of the components of the car completed their useful life and wear out period starts. So breakdown maintenance, the cost of maintenance, frequency of maintenance also increases. So this is how we can correlate the bathtub model for the car as well. Similarly, if you are working in IT industry or software domain or electronics domain or even civil domain, this particular bathtub model is applicable. And these two examples might have convinced you that yes, the bathtub model is applicable to many systems. Now, during my postdoc, one day my postdoc supervisor asked me a question. Rajkumar, really, do you really think that the bathtub model is applicable for the electronics? I confidently say yes. Then he told me that just go through the literature, especially from electronics component point of view, and then tell me, are you still agreed whatever you said? His basically question was, can we really apply bathtub model for electronic components, products or system? Then what I did, I identified all the review papers on reliability of electronics and I started reading. And after 1 week, after reading so many material, I came to know that no, the whatever confidence was there in my earlier statement, now that confidence was not there. And then I went to my professor and say, sir, I'm not confident whatever I said previously to you. Then he smiled and then he said, why can't you write a paper on this particular topic? Then the MS student and me and other researchers started working and we decided we should write a paper on applicability of bathtub model hazarded function for electronics. Then the question comes, we decided to write a paper, but how to start writing? That is a very big hurdle while writing the paper. And we struggle a lot for next 15 days to 1 month, how to organize the paper and start writing. And after a lot of struggle, we decided that we should start from the fundamentals. And fundamentals means what we will do, we will take a random data set and we will construct a bathtub model or bathtub curve. And I will tell you, when we start constructing this particular curve, this curve is we have prepared based on raw data. We came to know that even though in all the books bathtub model is discussed, mathematical expressions are expressed, but as a researchers, we are working in reliability domain, but our fundamental understanding was very poor. And then we realized that whatever text given in the books, in many books, I would say not all the books, they are presented in such a way that we don't get idea how to develop a bathtub model for a random data set. So we decided to write a section on bathtub mathematics. And we presented, started with section 2, not 1. And in section 2, in first part, we presented all mathematical terminologies related to bathtub. And I will tell you, this mathematics is presented in such a way that if somebody referring this particular material, he can easily develop a bathtub model for a random data set. So all equations are derived, defined and put in a very logical way so that it is a very small contribution, negligible contribution. But if a budding reliability engineering using this paper, then he can easily develop a model by just reading the text. So this is the first part of the paper, bathtub mathematics. After completing the bathtub mathematics, we decided to put the bathtub curve that we develop for a random data set. And we did an extensive literature survey that describes which are the different distributions or model available for developing a bottom overall shape of the bottom model. Which are the softwares which are available for the developing the bottom model. So this is the second part of the section, that is bottom model curve and different models, softwares, distributions used for developing overall shape of the bottom model. Then in this bottom, there are three regions: infant mortality, useful life, and wear out life. So we develop next three region or next content, that is explain bottom model first part, first region, second region, and third region. See, mathematics, bottom curve, and overall model. Then individual region of the bottom model are described. So this is how we prepared a second section. And if you look at the text, all relevant statements, words are properly cited. All the citations are taken from reputed journals which are supporting this particular theory. And in a very proper way it is written. You will never observe such type of writing in any of the book. So what I wanted to convey here is that we decided to write a paper and we started from section number 2. And how section 2 is divided? Mathematics, then curve development, overall shape, and individual region of the bottom model. And what are our key observations from this section? We need to divide a given section into different subsections logically to maintain the flow. This is a primary requirement of all kinds of paper. Second, we need to support each and every strong statement with very specific and relevant references in order to justify your claim or your observation or your comment. Then your contribution, even though it is a very small contribution for a given subsection, it should be reflected from the paper. So these are the key observations I wanted to convey here. Then the question comes, yes, we write mathematics, curve, we discuss each and every region. How to go ahead? That is a big question. So after completion of this section, when we had a discussion in our team, we realized that while doing a literature, from historical point of view, we did a lot of work. Then why should not we write a section that talks about the history of bottom model? Then we decided to go with section number 1. Means after section 2, we start writing section number 1, that is introduction and history. And in section number 1, the first subsection is based on introduction to hazard rate and bottom model. So you can see definition, what it describes, and some basic things of bottom model. So this is one paragraph related to the introduction of bottom model and its definition. Then second section talks about history or origin of the bottom. And surprisingly, we came to know that the bottom model is developed in 17th century, long back, for human mortality analysis. This was our observations, and that we emphasize in this particular part. Where is the origin of the bottom model? And originally it is developed for human mortality. Then after writing this particular session, we came across certain very critical comments. For example, these references, very good papers, they are saying that although the bottom model created for human mortality, but due to advancement in the science and technology, this curve is no longer applicable to all group of people. So after writing the history of human mortality and bottom, we end that section with a question mark in the mind of the reader. That is, Due to advancement in the science and technology, the bottom model is not applicable for all group of people, especially in the developed countries where medical facilities are created. So the death rate in the childs are very, very low. Therefore, for developed countries, this bottom model may not be applicable because there is no validity of the infant mortality region of the bottom curve. So this is how we created a question in the mind of the audience. Then we went ahead and what we said, at the same time, the human mortality scientist started rejecting the bottom model, but as a reliability engineer, as a manufacturing engineer, we are started using the bottom model. Means these people, human mortality scientists, saying bottom model should not be used for all kind of people, but reliability engineer started using bottom model for manufacturing the products, including electronics component. So this is where we raise the question that the purpose for which bottom model is developed, that purpose is not valid. Then why are we using this model for reliability analysis? So this is our research question. Then the last part of section number 1, we ended with the outline of the paper. And this is not a traditional outline. We wrote in such a way that it will create an impact. For example, the review of experiments conducted at University of Maryland and the existing literature, means published work, the paper is written. And then what is written in section number 2, section number 3, and so on. Again, we have given the example of the research conducted at the center, so that the gravity, the huge data that is used for preparing this particular paper will be communicated. So in brief, after completing section number 2, we started with section number 1. In that, first of all, we discussed the definition of hazard rate and bottom, then history of bottom model. After history, we created a question, can we really use bottom model for all group of people? The answer is no. If this answer is no, then why reliability engineers are using this curve? This is the research problem. And then the outline of the paper. This particular part is written at the end of the paper. Then the question comes that we completed section number 1. We linked section number 1 with section number 2. Then what to do next? Because historical part, problem definition is over. All mathematics, terminology of bottom model is over. How to go ahead, right? And again, we have to claim that bottom model is not applicable to electronics. So what we did, when we developed this bottom model, how many regions were there? 3 regions: infant mortality, useful life, and wear out. So we prepared a section that focuses on individual region of the bottom model. And that section is why the bottom model is not an appropriate assumption for electronics component and product. And we started with first subsection, that is first use of bottom model in industrial, means engineering system, when the bottom model is used. And we came to know that in 1940s and 50s, the bottom model started using in industrial systems, mechanical, electronics, and others. Who? The US military. So this particular para tells us when and how the bottom model started using in industrial systems. This is in a line with section number 1 and section number 2, but here we move to engineering systems. Then, as I mentioned, bottom has 3 regions. Infant mortality, we prepared section number 2. Useful life, we prepared section number 3. And wear out phenomenon, section number 3.4. So after introduction section, next 3 sessions will be infant mortality, useful life, and wear out. And we presented these 3 sections based on the experiments conducted at the research center and published literature. And what are your observations? Some key observations I am putting. If the quality of manufacturing of the component is very stringent and very high, then we will not observe the infant mortality in the components. And so many examples we given, of course. For example, one example in a very general way I will tell you. When my professor visited different lithium-ion battery manufacturing industries in China, the quality of manufacturing of lithium-ion battery was very low. At many places in open, dusty environment, the lithium-ion batteries were assembled. And we know that when dust is inserted in the lithium-ion battery, automatically life goes down. This is one of the cause of primary failure. And that's why the infant mortality will be observed in low quality manufacturing systems. At the same time, when he visited the Korean industries where the environment of the whole plant was controlled, there was no dust, the whole plant was automatic, where the probability of mistake is very low. And there, the type of lithium-ion batteries were manufactured are very good quality, and these quality will minimize or eliminate the infant mortality region. So this is how, with certain examples, we prepared section number 3.2, infant mortality. After discussing this particular section, we started hitting to useful life. And with so many text and examples and data, we presented that, we concluded that there is no useful life in the electronics. And when we started plotting the data from hazard rate versus time, that is failure rate versus time, we came to know that in most of the electronic component, the hazard rate trend was increasing. What does it mean? There is no infant mortality and there is no useful life. And once we observe this, we confidently said that there is no useful life in the electronics component. Then we went to section number 3.4, where this table I already discussed in my previous presentation, where the authors are there, the component on which the reliability study is conducted, that is given, and shape of the Weibull parameter is given. And as I mentioned, for most of the electronics component, the value of Weibull shape parameter is greater than 1. Means it clearly indicates that in electronics component, wear out phenomenon is present as the value of shape parameter is greater than 1. And there is no infant mortality and useful life. So this big table supported our claim that in electronics, there is a dominating period that is wear out, and there are very few examples where infant mortality and useful life is observed. So how we prepared section number 3? First, we introduced first use of bottom model in industrial systems. Then individual region of the bottom model is attacked with based on case studies and experiments. And the main observation is that it seems that wear out phenomenon is dominating electronic component product, and there are papers that shows infant mortality and useful life. See, always it is not possible that all papers will say that there is wear out period. There will be paper now which says there is infant mortality and useful life. Then we also presented the reason as well. Such papers we intentionally highlighted along with the justification, and some of the justifications are, if the quality of manufacturing is not good, infant mortality may be observed. Second observation we put is that if a system consists of so many components having different hazard rates, then the overall shape may look like a useful or infant, but actually it may not. So all such papers along with their possible reasons are highlighted. Then again the question comes, We completed section 1, 2, 3. Then what to do? Then we finally decided to go ahead with our main question. Does bathtub model exist? And how we started with section 3A, 3B, 3C of this article talks about different sections and bathtub models, whether it is applicable or not. Then we checked whether overall shape of the bathtub model is there or not. So we decided to attack on the overall shape of the bathtub model. And during this process, we came across certain key papers, I would say. And we decided to highlight those papers. For example, this particular author noted that the author has not in 40 years of experience seen system whole life reliability data which matches the bathtub prediction. So what he wanted to convey, in his entire career, he has not seen a electronic system model which matches with bathtub model. So similarly, other papers are also highlighted, which are the key papers which are saying that bathtub, overall shape of the bathtub is not applicable for electronics. Again, during this process, we also came across certain set of papers which are published by a scientist Wong in 1980s. And our claim was how bathtub model is not applicable to electronics. And in 1980s also, he presented 3-4 papers claiming the same thing. So generally what we do, if a paper which is very similar to our paper, we generally don't cite such papers. That is not at all a good approach. We should give due credit who already worked on similar kind of research. But we as a researcher show that how he presented the work and our approach of presenting the work. See, he presented in 1980s. We published our paper in 2020, means after 20-30 years. And in these 30 years, many technologies have changed. Many thought processes have changed. Many new papers on new technologies come into the picture. So these new papers will give you a different direction. So definitely your philosophical way of presentation and the philosophical way of Wong may be different. So give due credit to the researchers who have worked on similar topic, on similar claim. The approach, the methodology, the thought process will be different. Then in section 4.1, we included the key papers. In section 4.2, what could be the real shape of bathtub model? See, till we shown that bathtub model is not applicable to electronics. Then what is the shape of the bathtub model? The answer is roller coaster. See, there are 3 colored curves. You can see 4 colored colors image, where first decreasing hazard rate, constant hazard rate, increasing hazard rate, and one is like this. So take an example of a car or electronic printed circuit board or electronic device consists of many components. Each and every component will have their own shape of hazard rate, either decreasing, increasing, constant, or anything. Now when all such hazard rate come together to represent overall shape of the bathtub model, then the black color line shows the true shape. If it is there for the bathtub model, it is a roller coaster curve and not a typical bathtub shape. So as a scientist, researcher, from academics point of view, this shape is fine. But mathematical modeling point of view, we cannot force the data to fit in this particular model. We should go ahead with the trend of the data. So in section number 4, what we did? Oh, before that, section number 1, what we did? History of bathtub model, problem definition. Second section talks about all the fundamentals of bathtub model. Third section, individual region of the bathtub model. Fourth section, why overall shape of the bathtub model is not truth. If there is any shape of bathtub model, it is a roller coaster. And that's why the title of the paper is an assessment of validity of bathtub model hazard rate trends in electronics. So assessment is done by using literature data, experiments. Assessment is done for individual region of the bathtub model, overall shape of the bathtub model, and the focused systems are electronics. So this is how the work and the title are in line. Then how to summarize this particular work. So first part, see, in a very concise way the abstract is written. The first statement, the bathtub model has often been cited as hazard rate profile that predicts not only human mortality but also hazard rate of manufactured products. Very general statement, which is a background and motivation. Very general way it is presented. One statement on background and motivation. This paper examines inapplicability of bathtub model to predict the hazard rate of electronics component products and systems. Problem definition, very clear. Systems, type of systems, very clear. So problem statement, objective and scope is very clear after background. The paper use literature, also experiments and field data. So whatever claim we are making, for that we have developed our approach or methodology to prove our problem statement. For that we used literature data, experimental data, also field data to justify our claim why bathtub model is not applicable for electronics. The factors affecting the hazard rate of electronics are then discussed. Common hazard rate trends in electronics are identified, our observations are present, and then recommendations are given. So the analysis based on that results are presented, the findings are presented, and also recommendation, future direction are also given. And what is that future recommendation? This paper recommends that the preconceived model of hazard rate over time should not be used. This is the conclusion and future scope. So how abstract is reason? One statement, background and motivation. Second statement, problem definition, objective and scope, methodology, analysis and major findings, conclusion and future scope. This very clearly tell that what we are going to do, how we are going to do, what will be our key observations, and what is our recommendation. This is how we need to present the crisp of our work in the form of abstract, where the reader will get very clear idea that what is given in the paper, and the reader will also come to know if this paper is useful for him or not. Then conclusion. Before conclusion, I will briefly tell you, section 1 talks about history, problem definition. Section 2, overall mathematics. Section 3, individual region of the bathtub are attacked. Section 4 talks overall shape of the bathtub curve. So the first statement is observation. The bathtub curve was developed as a preconceived hazard rate model. Very general statement. And we are also saying it is applicable for mechanical, engineering, civil, other domains as well. Observations. Bathtub model is used in different domains for the analysis purpose. Second statement, it is observation and conclusion. And what is given here? And it is in line with statement number 1. Based on 55 case studies, we are saying that the bathtub model, especially electronics components, is evident from the literature. It means so many material case studies we referred that why bathtub model is not applicable for electronics. Second paragraph, it is related to conclusion. Assumption of hazard rate trend for electronics, whether it is bathtub model based or any preconceived model, can result in inaccurate and misleading reliability predictions. So general observations, observations for conclusion plus solid conclusion with a recommendation is provided here. Again, if we go ahead, the more insights are provided. The hazard rate of electronics depend on the design, materials, manufacturing process, inherent defects, and screening methods used. This is the insight. And the actual hazard rate and formulation of specific model can only be constructed with the actual data. So blindly we should not believe in the model. Based on the actual data, whatever model is developed, that model we should use for the further interpretation. So see, very general observation to specific observation and conclusion, and the reason behind this particular thing, the fundamental cause is also highlighted. Third paragraph, when electronic failures data is evaluated, it is observed that infant mortality is rarely seen. Means third section, first part, we came to know that infant mortality is not in case of if we deploy or if we improve the design, manufacturing process, quality control and screening. If we did all these things, you will not see infant mortality. Second observation talks about the furthermore, as noted that case studies failure rate that occurs in early life are generally not infant mortality failures, but they are wear out. So here we communicated conclusion or observation based on section number 3 that infant mortality is not there, useful is not there, there is a wear out phenomenon. And the possible reasons, the fundamental failure mechanisms, for example, dielectric breakdown, corrosion, negative bias temperature, instability, fatigue, these are the fundamental failure mechanisms responsible for the failure of the electronics. And these failure mechanisms are wear out type. Then finally, data from the case studies showed that Weibull shape parameter is greater than 1, denoting wear out failure characteristics. Fourth paragraph, this paper recommends that the electronics industry stop using the bottom model for predicting the hazard rate curve unless the data proves otherwise. And other reasons. So when you look at the conclusion section, what we see, whatever you are presenting in each and every section, the results, the crisp, you should highlight in such a way that your observations, conclusions, and insights must be focused one after another. So you can see here, observation, observation to conclusion, conclusion to insight. This is how you should present. What are your key observations and conclusion related to individual analysis? For example, first, second, and third region of the Butler model that you should present. And last part is related to the future scope. Overall, what is your recommendation? Electronics industry should not use, right? And we should rely on the true hazard rate curve that we get from the data. So this is how this particular paper is written. And based on the quote, the best literature review tells a good story. So I presented this particular session in a form of a good story, and I'm very sure this particular paper will give you some idea how to organize a review paper, how to distribute the work into different sections, so that in a very effective way the paper will be communicated or your research findings will be communicated. That's it from my side. If you have any question, I will take your question. Yes, the session is open for discussion. I'm done with my presentation. Now I'm free to take your questions. One question I can see, plagiarism policy in the purview of UGC norms. Yes, of course, the UGC also provided guidelines for plagiarism, and the context is also very clear. If your plagiarism is in a particular range, what kind of action will be taken? That guidelines are very clearly given by the UGC. So I request you to go through the guidelines. Right now, I don't know exactly the range, but please go through it. You will come to know what type of action will be taken if you are publishing a fake result and getting some academic benefits. Yes, any other question? All are requested to unmute themselves and ask the questions. Otherwise, they can put their question in the chat box. Digvijay sir,
हाँ sir.
it's that there is no question. Okay, I can see some questions. Size of review paper pages allowed in good journal. See, most of the quality journals have no restrictions on the uh, number of pages. There are certain journals who restrict the number of pages. But what is more important, in minimum words, how you write a paper to communicate your research key findings and future scope. We should focus on that particular aspect rather than talking in terms of number of pages, especially journal paper I'm talking about, because many journals don't restrict themselves with number of pages. Yeah, of course, when we talk about conference paper and review paper for a conference, of course, there will be restrictions on number of pages. So accordingly, you can communicate. But whenever you have to communicate what part you should highlight, the important historical uh, mile steps, or we can say important contributing steps, you must highlight what are the different aspects or directions in which research is going, that you should highlight, and what is the future scope, different topics on work is to be carried out, that must be focused. I guess I answered the question to the Pansare sir. Any other question? Yeah, I can see some comment. Excellent session, informative session. Thank you very much for your comments, but I'm expecting more and more questions. And I will tell you, you people may have many questions, even though the question is very silly, but I will tell you the most silliest question is the most important question. And that must be asked so that it will help a lot. Generally, as a researcher, we generally hesitate to ask a question, but I will tell you all these questions are equally important, more important. So if there is any question, I will take. Otherwise, Digvijay sir, we can go ahead with the conclusion.
Okay, sir. So thank you to you again for this another wonderful session in this FDP. And we can move to the next session, that is the valedictory function. So that session, I request HOD sir, Dr. Vikas Yadav, to start that session. So we are waiting for principal madam, so she will be here.
I guess I completed session on the time, right?
Yes, sir. Completed session on time.
I was
So
thinking that, yeah, please.
anyone wants to give feedback, from participant, so he can give his feedback. Can unmute and say some feedback.
See, I request all participants to give their feedback. See, your comment, even though it is a very negative comment, absolutely fine. But when you give your comment, it means you are listening all the sessions very carefully and you are giving your genuine comment. If positive comments are there, it will motivate us to again work harder in this direction. If you are giving negative comment, means we have to learn that we have to improve and come up with a better preparation. So your comments, feedbacks is very, very welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. Respected Principal Madam Dr. Arpana Pandey, NCER Pune. Invited speakers Dr. Rajkumar Patil, Dr. Sunil Sutar, Dr. Rahul Bhavne, and Dr. Amrut Mule. Other department HODs and all faculty members from various institutes. As you know, we have come to the last leg of this FDP program. We have received an overwhelming response from participants on this 5-day FDP, which is focused on research procedures. The Department of Mechanical Engineering, NCER Pune, organized this 5-day FDP on research paper writing and publication from 20th February to 24th February. This FDP was sponsored by Dr. Dada Saheb Ambedkar Technology University, Lonere. So as a researcher or guide, it is mandatory for one to know the basic of research in order to satisfy the purpose of research and establish an acceptable conclusion. The creation and dissemination of knowledge through research is one of the core functions of higher education institutions. Apart from generating new knowledge, engineering and technology institutes have the responsibility of developing technologies useful for mankind. So the objective of this FDP was to introduce the participants to the world of research paper writing and publishing. This FDP proved to be an eye-opening session for new researchers and also aimed at imparting the skills required to handle different tools and technologies that are useful for during the entire process of research. The sessions were very well handled by faculty members from reputed institutions like NIT, government engineering colleges, and autonomous institutes. The FDP was attended by around 250 participants, faculty members from different departments of various institutes inside and outside of Maharashtra. So I will tell this FDP will very much helpful for their future and for their upcoming research. Thank you. Now I would like that all the participants should give their feedback on this FDP, their thoughts about the contents and FDP. Thank you, everyone. Digvijay?
Yes. Uh, I'm waiting for the feedback from the participant. If anyone want to say something about the FDP program, he is welcome for this program. Anyone? Now, I would like to request respected Principal Madam to say a few words about the FDP program.
Good evening, all of you. First of all, I would like to say thanks to all the speakers, delegates, those sessions, and this wonderful concept that is being organized by the mechanical department and Digvijay Patil as well. So I'm really glad that Dr. Rajkumar Patil, the faculty from PCCOE, has taken a very good session on the Scopus and Web of Science relevant perspective lessons, session 1 and session Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, no.
Even
No,
we are thankful to Dr. Sunil Sutar, who has taken the session on how we can draft a manuscript, and even to Dr. Rahul Bhavne, who has taken a wonderful session on patent publication and copyright. Even I could see one his session that how we can avoid the mistakes, and how that just like an ink pen has added a weightage to how we can file the patent into that. Even we are very much thankful to Dr. Amrut Mule from SPNIT Suratkal, or how one can just frame his journey from Mr. or Miss to doctorate. Actually, whenever such kind of FDPs are being, say, conducted or being planned, the motto of around it that it should benefit not only the in-house participants, but also those who are joined from all over DBATU affiliated institutes. So such kind of FDPs we encourage, and even we expect that this will help everyone to pursue their research journey. And even we are very much thankful to Digvijay Patil and entire mechanical department for hosting such a wonderful FDP. And more or less, thank you very much to all the participants, those who have taken their time and even initiated their journey towards research. Thank you one and all. And on behalf of Nutan College of Engineering and Research, again, I will say thank you to one and all. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Now, it's a time for vote of thanks. So, good evening, all. Myself, Dr. Digvijay Patil, Dean R&D of NCER Pune and co-convener of this FDP program. So, thank you is a small word, and it comes from big heart, and it cannot be seen or touched, and it must be felt by heart. So, I feel honored and privileged to get the opportunity to propose a vote of thanks on this special occasion. So I would like to thank all the honorable delegates who blessed us with their presence. I'm also very thankful to management of Nutan Maharashtra Vidya Prasarak Mandal and the invited speakers, Dr. Rajkumar Patil sir, Dr. Amrut Mohe sir, Dr. Rahul Bhavne sir, Dr. Sunil Sutar sir. So words are not enough to thank their constant guidance and support to shape the FDP. My sincere thanks to Dr. Aparna Pandey Madam, Principal NCR, for her help and support at various stages, and we will ever remain grateful, and we thank you for being with us today. I would like to thank our beloved HOD, Dr. Vikas Yadav, for his constant help and guidance that radiated a source of energy within us. I am very thankful to all current former faculty colleagues and non-teaching staff members of the NCR who always stand by us and motivate us. I feel proud and thank you for making this event a successful one. An event of this dimension cannot happen overnight. The wheels start rolling weeks in advance, and we have been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of very motivated and dedicated organizing committee. Professor Vijay Kumar Dabhade sir, Professor Bhushan Pawar sir, Professor Nilima madam, Dr. M.K. Biradar sir, Professor S.N. More sir. I cannot thank everyone enough for the involvement they have shown and the willingness they have expressed to take on the completion of the task beyond their comfort zones. At last but not least, I am very thankful to Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Technological University, Lonere, for providing the sponsorship in this FDP. If time is money, then today in this week you have spent millions of us. So thanks to all the participants for making this event grand successful. Thank you to all again. Thank you to all. Now session is over. You can fill the feedback form for today's session. So link will be provided to you through the WhatsApp group. And certificates will be provided to the each participant who has attended the FDP program. So on the basis of the attendance verification, we will provide the certificates on your provided email ID. Okay. Thank you to all. So session is over now and FDP is over. Thank you to all again.
Excellent.